I keep lists of everything. Things I need to remember. Things I've already done. Things I want to learn. Things that scare me. Things that make sense. Things that don't. My therapist says it's a coping mechanism. A way my autistic brain organizes a world that often feels overwhelming and incomprehensible. She's probably right. The lists give me structure, patterns, predictability. They turn the chaos of existence into neat rows of information that I can understand and control. I have a list of safe foods, a list of sensory triggers to avoid, a list of conversation scripts for common social situations, a list of my special interests, ranked by intensity and duration, a list of people who understand me, very short, and people who don't, very long. And I have a list about love. It's not a list of people I've loved, because that would be embarrassing short and pathetically one-sided. It's a list of observations about love. Things I've noticed about how other people experience it, compiled from years of careful study. Because even though I'm 28 years old, I've never actually been in love. Not really. Not in the reciprocated, functional, healthy way that other people seem to manage. The list is titled, What Love Looks Like, Observations from the Outside. Love makes people smile for no apparent reason. Love makes people want to be near each other. Even in silence, love makes people remember small details about each other. Love makes people feel safe enough to be themselves. Love makes people want to understand each other's minds. Love makes people patient with each other's flaws. Love makes people choose each other, repeatedly, every day. I read this list sometimes and feel like an anthropologist studying an alien species. I understand the words. I can observe the behaviors, but I don't know what it actually feels like. My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 28 years old, and I work as a technical writer for a software company in Seattle. It's a good job for someone like me. Clear expectations, minimal social interaction, work that rewards attention to detail and logical thinking. I translate complex technical information into user-friendly documentation. I'm very good at it. I was diagnosed with autism at 25, after a lifetime of knowing I was different but not understanding why. The diagnosis was a relief and a grief at the same time. Relief because finally I had an explanation. Grief because I realized I'd spent 25 years trying to be someone I wasn't, exhausting myself in the process. Since the diagnosis, I've been trying to unmask. Trying to figure out who I actually am underneath all the learned behaviors and social script. It's harder than it sounds. When you've spent your whole life performing neurotypicality, it's difficult to know where the mask ends and the real you begins. One thing I know for certain, I want love. I want to experience what's on my list, not just observe it. But every time I've tried dating, it's been a disaster. Neurotypical men who don't understand why I need things explained explicitly. Who get frustrated when I can't read their subtle social cues. Who think I'm quirky at first but exhausting after a few weeks. Who want me to be spontaneous when spontaneity makes me anxious. Who see my autism as something to be fixed rather than something to be understood. After the last failed relationship 2 years ago, I gave up. Added romantic love to my list of things that probably aren't for people like me. Tried to be okay with that. The coffee shop is part of my routine. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m., I stop at Evergreen Coffee on my way to work. I order the same thing, medium oat milk latte, 1 blueberry scone. I sit at the same table, back corner, facing the door, near the outlet for my laptop. I spend exactly 45 minutes there, reviewing my task list for the day and mentally preparing for work. It's predictable. Safe. Mine. On a Wednesday in November, the pattern disrupts. I arrive at 7 a.m. exactly. My table is occupied by a man I've never seen before. He's maybe in his mid-30s, wearing a dark blue sweater and wire-rimmed glasses, completely absorbed in a book. A notebook sits open beside him, covered in dense handwriting. My brain immediately goes into crisis mode. Wrong. This is wrong. That's my table. I need that table. Without it, my whole morning routine is disrupted, which means my whole day will feel off, which means Claire. The barista, Jessica, calls my name. She's holding my usual order, already prepared because she knows my routine. Your table's taken today. Want to try the window seat? I should say yes. Any reasonable person would say yes. But I'm frozen, overwhelmed by the sudden change, my brain refusing to adapt. The man at my table looks up, drawn by Jessica calling my name. His eyes meet mine for a brief second before I look away. Then I hear chair legs scraping. Actually, I'm just finishing up, he says. His voice is calm, gentle. This seat's all yours if you need it. I glance back. He's packing up his things, careful and methodical. The book, the notebook, a laptop I hadn't noticed. He doesn't seem annoyed or put out. Just understanding. You don't have to move, I manage to say, even though I desperately want him to move. I know, he says simply. But I get the sense that routine is important to you. And I was about to leave anyway. The last part is obviously a kind lie, but I appreciate it anyway. He gathers his things and moves to the window seat Jessica suggested. I sink into my usual chair with relief so profound it's almost embarrassing. Thank you, I call over, louder than intended. He looks up from resettling at his new table and smiles. No problem. I understand about routines. There's something in the way he says it that makes me think he really does understand. Not in the patronizing, I'll humor the weird girl way, but genuine understanding. I pull out my laptop and open my task list, but I keep glancing at him. He's back in his book now, making occasional note. There's something methodical about the way he works. Every few minutes, he checks his watch. When he takes a sip of coffee, it's always 3 sips in succession, never more, never less. He repositions his notebook at exact right angles to his laptop. Patterns. He has patterns too. The next Friday, I arrive at 7 a.m. My table is empty. The man is at the window seat, same book, same notebook. He glances up when I enter, gives a small nod of acknowledgement, returns to his work. I set up at my usual table. But I'm distracted. I keep looking over at him, trying to understand the patterns I observed last time. The 3 sips of coffee. The precise positioning of object. The regular checking of his watch. 20 minutes into my 45-minute routine, he stands up to leave. As he passes my table, he pauses. I'm Marcus, by the way, he says. Marcus Wright. I'm usually here Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays around 7 o'clock. But I'll stick to the window seat so I don't mess up your routine again. Claire, I say. And thank you. For understanding. Most people don't. Most people don't have to organize their entire lives around managing sensory overload and need for predictability, he says matter-of-factly. But some of us do. My heart skips. You're autistic, yeah. Diagnosed at 32, 3 years ago. He adjusts his bag on his shoulder. The routine recognition thing? Takes one to know one. I don't know what to say. I've never met another autistic adult in real life. Online, sure. In support groups, but never just randomly in a coffee shop. I should let you get back to your routine, he says. But if you ever want to talk, I'm here same time as you, apparently. He leaves, and I stare at my laptop screen without seeing it. Another autistic adult. Who understood about routines without explanation. Who moved without making me feel guilty. Who mentioned sensory overload casually, like it was just a normal part of life. That night, I add a new item to my ongoing list. People who understand me, very short. Mom, sometimes. Dr. Sarah, therapist. Marcus from coffee shop? The question mark is because I don't actually know if he understands me. Not really. We've had one brief conversation. But something about the way he moved without judgment, the way he spoke about autism like it was just a fact rather than a tragedy or inspiration, it felt different. The following Monday, I arrive at 7 a.m. Marcus is at the window seat. I'm at my usual table. We exchange nods. That's it. But Wednesday, as I'm packing up to leave, he speaks. Can I ask what you're always working on so intently? I hesitate. Most people don't really want to know the answer. They're just making small talk. But his expression is genuinely curious, not just polite. Task lists, I say. And documentation review for work. I'm a technical writer. No kidding. He leans forward slightly. I'm a software developer. Back-end systems, mostly. I bet we work with similar documentation. And just like that, we're talking. Really talking. About technical writing and clean code, and the importance of clear documentation, and how frustrating it is when developers don't comment their work properly. 15 minutes pass like 15 seconds. I'm barely aware of time moving, which almost never happens. Usually I'm hyper-aware of time, constantly checking, making sure I stay on schedule. I'm sorry, I say suddenly, checking my watch. I've completely lost track of time. I need to leave or I'll be late for work. Same, he says, looking startled. I have a meeting at 9 o'clock and I need to prep. We gather our things in parallel, and there's something comfortable about it. Two people with similar rhythms, similar needs. At the door, he pauses. Do you want to exchange numbers? In case you ever want to talk about documentation standards or anything else. I should say no. I barely know him. But I hear myself say, okay. We exchange numbers, and I leave feeling something unfamiliar. Not anxiety. Not relief. Something else. Something that might be excitement? That night, I create a new list. Things I know about Marcus. Autistic, diagnosed at 32, software developer, back-end systems. Has routines and patterns, coffee sipping, object positioning, time checking. Understands documentation, actually listens when people talk, didn't make me feel weird for losing track of time. It's not a long list, but it's a start. We start texting. Nothing dramatic. Just occasional messages about work, about autism, about the absurdity of neurotypical social rules. Marcus, why do people ask, how are you? If they don't actually want to know how you are. Me, I know. I spent years giving honest answers before I learned it's just a greeting. Marcus, I once told a coworker in detail about my digestive issues because she asked how I was. She never asked again. Me, that's actually an efficient solution. Marcus, that's what I thought. But apparently it was TMI and inappropriate. Me, neurotypical rules are exhausting. Marcus, absolutely exhausting. It's the first time I've been able to talk about autism with someone who gets it from the inside. Not a therapist studying it, not a parent researching it for their child, but someone living it. 3 weeks after we exchange numbers, he texts, "Would you want to do something outside of coffee shop routine? No pressure. Just thought it might be nice to actually talk without time pressure." My immediate instinct is to say no. New situations are hard. Unpredictable, anxiety-inducing. But then I think about how comfortable I feel texting him. How much I enjoy our brief coffee shop conversations. How rare it is to find someone who understands. Me, what did you have in mind? Marcus, museum? The Natural History Museum has a quiet hours program on Saturday mornings. Fewer people, dimmer lights, no sudden loud noises. I go sometimes when I need to be around people but can't handle full crowds. Me, that sounds perfect actually. Marcus, Saturday at 10 o'clock? Me, yes. But I need a detailed plan. Where to meet, what to see, how long it will last. Uncertainty makes me anxious. Marcus, same. How about, meet at the main entrance at 10 o'clock. Spend about 2 hours there. Focus on the geology exhibit. It's the quietest. Leave by noon. Get lunch at the quiet sandwich place down the street if we're both feeling okay, or split up if either of us is overwhelmed. Does that work? The relief I feel at his detailed response is enormous. He gets it. He doesn't think I'm being difficult or high maintenance. He just plans accordingly. Me, perfect. Thank you for understanding about needing details. Marcus, thank you for being honest about what you need instead of pretending to be flexible when you're not. I read that message 3 times. When have I ever been in a situation where someone thanked me for setting boundaries? Saturday arrives. I'm anxious, but it's manageable anxiety. I know the plan. I know where I'm going. I know Marcus understands if I need to leave early. He's waiting at the main entrance at exactly 10 o'clock, wearing the same blue sweater from the coffee shop. There's something reassuring about that. Predictable. Hi, I say. Hi. He doesn't try to hug me or shake hands, which I appreciate. Physical contact needs to be negotiated, not assumed. Ready. We enter the museum. He was right, it's quiet. Maybe 20 other people total in the entire building. Soft lighting. No loudspeaker announcements. We drift toward the geology exhibit. It's beautiful. Rows of minerals and gems and fossils, each precisely labeled with formation date and chemical composition. I could spend hours here. I love this, I say quietly. Everything is categorized, organized. It all makes sense. That's why I come here when I'm overwhelmed, Marcus says. Rocks don't have social rules. They don't expect you to read subtext. They're just what they are. We wander slowly through the exhibit. Sometimes talking, sometimes in comfortable silence. He reads every placard, same as me. Takes photos of interesting specimens. Points out patterns in crystal formations. An hour in, I realize I'm happy. Not performing happiness, not forcing a smile. Actually happy. Can I ask you something personal? I say. Sure. Do you ever feel like you're an alien observing human behavior instead of actually participating in it? He stops walking and looks at me directly. Rare for autistic people, but his expression is so understanding that I don't look away. Every single day, he says. Like I'm running human.exe, but it's not my native operating system. Yes. I'm almost bouncing with the relief of being understood. That's exactly it. I have lists about how people behave, what things mean, how to respond correctly. But it's all learned. It's not intuitive. What kind of lists? I hesitate. My lists feel private, vulnerable. But something about Marcus makes me want to share. I have a list about love, I admit. Things I've observed about how other people experience it. But I've never actually experienced it myself. Not really. Can I see it? I pull out my phone, scroll to the list, hand it over. Watch his face as he reads. He's quiet for a long moment. This is incredibly insightful, he says finally. These observations are all accurate. But Claire. He looks up. You know what's missing. What? You're observing love from outside. But you deserve to be inside it. You deserve to be on your own list. Something in my chest cracks open. I don't know how to do that. Maybe we figure it out together, he says softly. I'm not great at this either. I've never had a relationship that lasted more than a few months because I'm too rigid or don't compromise or whatever else. But maybe 2 autistic people could work out a system that actually functions. Like a collaborative experiment? Sure. He smiles. Though maybe we call it dating instead of an experiment. Slightly more romantic. I'm not very good at romance, I warn him. Neither am I. But I'm very good at clearly defined expectations and honest communication. Maybe we start there and see what happens. I think about my list. About love making people want to understand each other's minds. About love making people patient with each other's flaws. About love making people choose each other repeatedly. Okay, I say. Let's try. We start dating, though it looks different from neurotypical dating. We don't do dinner and a movie. We do parallel activities, both of us pursuing our own interests in the same space, comfortable in shared silence. We don't have surprise dates or spontaneous outings. We schedule everything at least 3 days in advance, with detailed itineraries. We don't do subtle hints or expect mind reading. We communicate explicitly about needs and boundaries and feelings. I'm reaching sensory overload and need to go home, I tell him one evening when we're at a gallery. Thank you for telling me, he says immediately. Do you want me to come with you or do you need solo time? Solo time. But can we text later? Absolutely. He doesn't seem hurt or rejected. Just understanding. Because he's been there. He knows sometimes you need to retreat to your own space, and it's not personal. I learn his patterns, his needs. He needs everything in his apartment at right angles. He needs exactly 8 hours of sleep, no more, no less. He can't handle phone calls without advance notice. He stims by tapping his fingers in prime number sequences. He learns mine. I need firm pressure for hugs, not light touches. I need warning before any schedule changes. I can't process verbal information when overwhelmed, it needs to be written down. I stim by running my fingers along textured fabric. We build a relationship on understanding instead of assumption, on clarity instead of guessing, on accepting each other's neurology instead of trying to change it. 3 months in, I'm updating my What Love Looks Like list, and I realize all the items apply to Marcus and me. 1. Love makes people smile for no apparent reason. I catch myself smiling when his name appears on my phone. 2. Love makes people want to be near each other, even in silence. Our parallel activities have become my favorite part of the week. 3. Love makes people remember small details about each other. He remembers I hate cilantro, that I prefer written instructions, that Tuesdays are hard for me. 4. Love makes people feel safe enough to be themselves. I don't mask around him anymore. 5. Love makes people want to understand each other's minds. We spend hours discussing how our brains work. 6. Love makes people patient with each other's flaws. He never gets frustrated when I need things explained. I never get frustrated when he needs everything organized. 7. Love makes people choose each other repeatedly every day. We choose this, us, every day. But there's still something missing from the list. The thing Marcus noticed that day at the museum. Me. I'm still observing love instead of acknowledging I'm in it. 6 months into dating, we're at my apartment. I'm sitting on the couch under my weighted blanket. He's in the armchair reading. Comfortable parallel existence. Marcus. He looks up. I think I'm in love with you. He sets down his book carefully, precisely. You think. I'm not entirely certain what being in love feels like. I've never experienced it before. But when I review my list about love, all the criteria match what I feel about you. And I'm happy when you're around. And I miss you when you're not. And I want to know everything about how your mind works. And you make the world feel less overwhelming. So, I think that's love. He crosses to the couch, sits on the edge. Can I hold your hand? I nod. He takes my hand, firm pressure, not too tight. Claire, I am absolutely, completely in love with you, he says. I have been for at least 2 months but didn't want to say it and pressure you. But since we're being explicit, I love you. The way you organize the world into lists. The way you're honest about your needs. The way you listen when I explain something without getting bored. The way you're brilliant and kind and yourself, unapologetically. I love you too, I say, testing out the words. They feel right. True. But I need to tell you something. I don't know how to love myself the way you love me. That's the missing piece. I can observe love in others, I can even experience loving you, but I don't know how to add myself to the equation. What do you mean? I struggle to articulate it. I see all my autistic traits as problems. Things to work around, manage, hide. You see them as just parts of who I am. I don't know how to do that for myself. Marcus is quiet for a moment. Can I suggest something? Please. Make a new list. Not what love looks like, but what I love about myself. And I'll help. We'll build it together. One item at a time. I don't know what would go on that list, I admit. Start with your strengths that come from being autistic. Not despite being autistic, because of it. I get my phone, open a new note. Title it, What I Love About Myself. I'm good at details? I try. You're not just good at details. You notice things no one else sees. In documentation, in code, in life. Your brain processes information at a depth most people can't access. That's not a flaw. That's a superpower. I type, 1. I notice details others miss. What else? He prompts. I'm organized? You create systems that actually work. You've taught me better ways to organize my own life. Your need for structure isn't a limitation, it's a skill. I create functional systems and structure. We continue like this. Marcus helping me reframe traits I've always seen as deficits into strength. My intense interests aren't obsessive, they're passionate expertise. My need for honesty isn't tactless, it's refreshing authenticity. My difficulty with casual socializing isn't a failure, it's selectivity in relationships, depth over breadth. My sensory sensitivities aren't weaknesses, they're heightened awareness. By the end, the list has 12 items. It's not long, but it's real. Honest. This feels weird, I say. Listing good things about myself. That's because you've spent your whole life being told your neurology is wrong, Marcus says. But it's not wrong. It's just different. And different isn't less. I read through the list again. Can we make this a project? Like we do weekly reviews of this list, add to it, work on actually believing it. I think that's a great idea. He squeezes my hand. But Claire, you need to know, the way you are right now, exactly as you are, is enough. You don't need to earn self-love by changing or improving. You're worthy of it now. My eyes fill with tears. No one's ever said that to me before. Then I'll say it as many times as you need to hear it. Over the next year, we work on the list together. It becomes a weekly ritual. Every Sunday, we review what I love about myself, see if anything needs to be added or revised. Slowly, painfully, I start to believe it. I notice when I'm being self-critical in ways I'd never be toward Marcus or another autistic person. I catch myself thinking, I'm being too much, and counter it with, I'm being exactly who I am. It's not a straight line. There are bad days. Days when I hate my autism, when I wish I could just be normal, when the exhaustion of living in a world not built for my neurology feels overwhelming. But Marcus is there for those days. Not fixing, not cheerleading, just present. And there are good days. Days when I appreciate my autistic trait. When I'm grateful for the way my brain works. When I feel, genuinely, that I'm enough exactly as I am. 18 months into our relationship, Marcus proposes. Not with a surprise. That would be terrible for both of us. We discussed marriage 6 months ago, decided we both wanted it eventually, agreed we'd know when the time was right. The proposal itself is perfect. We're at the Natural History Museum again, in the geology exhibit where we first really talk. He pulls out a small box. Claire Bennett, I love you exactly as you are. Your lists, your routines, your brilliant mind, your honest heart. Will you marry me? The ring is simple, a lab-created sapphire, because we both prefer the ethics of lab-grown gems and appreciate the irony of something beautiful created in a controlled environment. Yes, I say. But I need you to know I'm still working on the self-love thing. I'm not there yet. I know, he says, sliding the ring onto my finger. That's okay. We'll keep working on it together. For however long it takes. We get married 6 months later. Small ceremony, immediate family only. Scheduled for 2 p.m. on a Saturday because morning stress is too much for both of us. Short service, 20 minutes, because neither of us can handle long ceremonies. Reception at a quiet restaurant with soft lighting and a predictable menu. My vows include, I promise to communicate clearly, to respect your patterns, to never expect you to mask for me, to build a life where we can both be authentically ourselves. His include, I promise to be patient, To understand when you need space. To help you see yourself the way I see you, brilliant, worthy, enough. There's not a dry eye in the room, including ours. 2 years into marriage, I'm reviewing my list. I have so many now. But the one I come back to most often is what I love about myself. It's grown to 37 items. Some big, some small. Some about autism specifically, some just about me. I am fiercely loyal to people I care about. I have an excellent memory for facts and details. I can hyper-focus on problems. Until I solve them, I appreciate textures and patterns in ways that bring me joy. I am honest. Even when it's uncomfortable, I love deeply and completely. And at the bottom, added just last week, I am learning to love myself, slowly but surely, and that's enough. Marcus walks into the room, sees me looking at my phone. The list. The list. He sits beside me on the couch. How are you feeling about it? Better, I say honestly. Not perfect. I still have days where I hate being autistic. Where I'm exhausted from navigating a neurotypical world. Where I feel broken instead of different. That's allowed, he says. Self-love isn't constant. It's a practice, not a destination. When did you get so wise? I have a very wise wife who teaches me things. He smiles. You know what I think? I think you should revise your original list. What love looks like. Add one more item. What item? Love means loving yourself as much as you love others. Maybe not every day. Maybe not perfectly. But trying. Choosing yourself, repeatedly, the way you choose me. I open the original list, the one I made years ago before I met Marcus. Add. Love means learning to love yourself, even when it's hard, even when you're different, even when the world tells you you're wrong. Love means choosing yourself too. There, I say. The list is complete. Is it? Marcus asks gently. Or is it always evolving, like us? I think about that. About how I once thought love was something I'd only observe from the outside. About how I found someone who helped me experience it. About how the hardest part wasn't learning to love him, it was learning to love myself. Always evolving, I agree. Just like us. 5 years after I met Marcus in that coffee shop, I start a blog. It's anonymous, but I write about being autistic, about late diagnosis, about learning to unmask, about finding love both external and internal. I share my list. The original What Love Looks Like and the newer What I Love About Myself. The response is overwhelming. Hundreds of comments from autistic people who relate, who thought they were the only ones struggling with self-love, who needed permission to see their autism as difference rather than deficit. One message stands out. I'm 19 and just got diagnosed. I thought I'd never find love because I'm too different, too difficult. But reading your lists gave me hope. Thank you for showing that it's possible. That we're not broken. That we can love and be loved and learn to love ourselves too. I show the message to Marcus. You're helping people, he says. I'm just writing about my experience. That's exactly what people need. Not clinical descriptions of autism. Real stories from real people living real lives. You're doing important work, Claire. I've never thought of my lists as important work. They were always just survival tools, ways to make sense of a confusing world. But maybe they're more than that. Maybe they're bridges. Ways for autistic people to see themselves reflected. Ways for neurotypical people to understand us better. Ways to turn observation into connection. I update my What I Love About Myself list. I turn my observations into stories that help others feel less alone. That night, Marcus and I are doing our usual evening routine, parallel activities in shared space. He's debugging code, I'm writing a new blog post. The TV is off. No music. Just the comfortable sound of typing and breathing. Claire, he says. Remember when we first met? When I gave up my seat in the coffee shop? Of course. I didn't tell you this, but that day was one of my worst in months. I was overwhelmed, exhausted, seriously considering quitting my job because the social demands were too much. I went to the coffee shop because it was part of my routine, the one stable thing I could control. He pauses. And then I saw you, frozen in the doorway, clearly distressed, and I recognized it immediately. The sensory overload, the routine disruption, the anxiety. And for the first time in weeks, I felt useful. I could help someone. I could do the one thing I wished someone would do for me. What's that? Understand without explanation. Accommodate without judgment. See the person behind the autism. I set down my laptop. You did all that for me. You did it for me too, he says. You saw my patterns. You didn't think I was weird or rigid. You just got it. Got me. We saved each other, I say softly. We did. But more than that, we helped each other save ourselves. I taught you to add yourself to your list. You taught me that my need for structure isn't a flaw. We both learned that being autistic doesn't make us less worthy of love. He's right. That's exactly what happened. I pull out my phone one more time, open my list. There are so many now. Lists about everything from safe foods to special interests to coping strategies. But the two that matter most are still what love looks like and what I love about myself. I read through them both, these documents of my journey from observation to participation, from self-criticism to self-acceptance. The lists aren't perfect. Neither am I. Neither is Marcus. But we're both trying, learning, growing. And that's what love is, I've discovered. Not perfection. Not constant happiness. Not fixing each other or completing each other. Love is seeing someone fully, all their patterns and quirks and needs, and choosing them anyway. Repeatedly. Every day. Love is being seen fully, all your masks removed, all your authentic self visible, and being chosen anyway. Love is choosing yourself too. Even on hard days. Even when you feel broken. Even when the world tells you you're wrong. I create one final list. Title it, What I've Learned About Love from the Inside. 1. Love isn't about being normal. It's about being yourself and finding someone who loves that self. 2. Love isn't about reading minds. It's about clear communication and honest boundaries. 3. Love isn't about spontaneity. It's about creating patterns and routines together. 4. Love isn't about fixing each other. It's about accepting each other and growing together. 5. Love isn't about being neurotypical. It's about being authentically you. 6. Love isn't complete without self-love. You can't truly accept love from others if you don't believe you deserve it. 7. Love means adding yourself to every list. Choosing yourself. Loving yourself. Believing you're worthy. I show the list to Marcus. Perfect, he says. You should add that to the blog. I think you went from writing lists about love from the outside to living it from the inside. That's a story worth sharing. So I share it. The whole journey. The original observation list. The failed relationship. Meeting Marcus. Learning to unmask. Building a relationship on understanding. The hardest part, learning to love myself. The response is even bigger than before. Messages from autistic people, parents of autistic children, therapists, educators. People who finally understand that autism and love aren't incompatible. That being different doesn't mean being less. One message makes me cry. I'm a 45-year-old autistic woman who thought I'd never find love. I'd given up. But your story gave me hope to try again. And to work on loving myself first. Thank you for being honest about the hard parts and the good parts. Thank you for making me feel less alone. That's what the lists are for, I realize. Not just to organize my own chaos, but to build bridges. To show other autistic people they're not alone. To help them add themselves to their own list. 10 years after we met, Marcus and I are back at that same coffee shop. Same table, I still sit at my corner table. He still takes the window seat. Same order. Same comfortable routine. But everything is different now. I don't hide my stimmying anymore. I run my fingers along textured napkins openly. Marcus taps prime numbers on the table. We're both authentically ourselves, masks off, in public. We're working on our latest project, a book about autistic relationships, co-written. Part memoir, part advice, part love letter to the autistic community. What should we call it? Marcus asked. I think about my list. About the journey from observation to participation. About learning to love both someone else and myself. How about the list of us? Love, autism, and learning to choose yourself, I suggest. Perfect, he says. We work in comfortable parallel for a while. Then Marcus looks up. Claire. Yeah. I'm proud of you. For everything you've become. Everything you've learned. Everything you've taught me and others. I'm proud of us, I correct. We did this together. We did. But you did the hardest part, you learned to love yourself. And that's no small thing. He's right. It was the hardest part. Harder than unmasking, harder than figuring out relationships, harder than navigating a neurotypical world. But I did it. With his help, with therapy, with time and patience and many, many lists. I pull out my phone one last time. Open what I love about myself. It's up to 53 items now. Add one more. I had the courage to add myself to my own list. To choose myself. To love myself. Even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. I show it to Marcus. He reads it and smiles. You know what, he says. I think you've completed the assignment. You learned to add myself to all your lists. Not just the self-love list, but the list of people worthy of patience, understanding, accommodation, and unconditional love. He's right. That was always the journey. Not just learning to list good qualities about myself, but fundamentally believing I deserve the same kindness, understanding, and love I give to others. It took a long time. It took meeting someone who saw my autism as difference rather than deficit. It took unmasking. It took hundreds of lists and therapy and small daily choices to be kind to myself. But I did it. I, Claire Bennett, autistic girl who wrote lists about love from the outside, learned to live it from the inside. I learned that love isn't something you only observe in others. It's something you experience, give, receive. And most importantly, something you give to yourself. I am autistic. I have patterns and routines and needs. I process the world differently. I love differently. And I am worthy of love. External and internal. From others and from myself. That's not just an item on a list anymore. It's a truth I finally believe. The end.